Okay, thank you. Welcome, everybody. This is the Thursday, April 7th Westwood School Committee meeting. I am calling the meeting to order, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to recognize Westwood Media Center, which is live streaming the meeting and also recording this for later viewing on its platforms. And as always, we thank Westwood Media Center for everything those guys do for us. And ladies. Okay, let's jump right into the superintendent's report.
Okay, great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. So tonight, our first item is to recognize one of our seniors. So I would like to introduce the committee to Healy Kutzer. Healy can wave here. And Healy, Healy, you're getting applause before I even tell them about your accomplishments. It's fantastic. So as I said, Healy's a senior at Westwood, and she is the Massachusetts State Champion from the MIA State Tournament on March 1st in alpine skiing, which was held at Wachusett Mountain. She is champion of the MIAA Mass-Based Ski League East for the 4th straight year and a 4-time Boston Globe All-Scholastic athlete. She was named captain to the Massachusetts state team, composed of the top 12 men and top 12 women throughout Massachusetts to compete in the Eastern U.S. High School Championship, which was a 3-day event that was held at Attitash Bear Peak in New Hampshire in March, where she podiumed in the slalom event with a 3rd place finish skiing against top high school skiers from 15 states. Very impressive. She skis the FIS International Ski Circuit outside of the Westwood ski team. She is a 10-year athlete with the Cranmore Mount Washington Valley ski team in New Hampshire on weekends, I guess in her spare time she does that, where she was named this year's most outstanding skier. And sadly, Healy does have to graduate, but luckily she plans to ski at Northeastern, I believe. Is that right? So we might still be able to see some of her fantastic athleticism. So we wanted to congratulate you, Healy. Healy's joined by her parents and her grandmother, who I'm sure are also very proud. And I also want to recognize that we're joined by our athletic director, Matt Gillis, and Coach David Lamb. Coach Lamb, would you like to say any words? I didn't ask you to prepare anything, so.
Now I'm under pressure to say nice things, which I have nothing but.
Okay.
I'm just going to say it's been an absolute pleasure working for the last 4 years, and the whole time in middle school before that. Mm-hmm. But it will be a saga coming to an end, and it's been absolutely amazing with you for the last 4 years on the ski team. You have been a leader and an excellent asset to the team. And it will be sad to lose you, but I know you're going on to greater places.
That's great. And so we have, when we recognize people at school committee, we like to give them a little Westwood swag.
You want pictures?
Oh, yes.
Oops, sorry.
Thank you.
Congrats, Healy.
Could I ask Healy a question?
Oh, sure.
Healy, I just wanted to ask you a question if I could. For the young kids out there, they don't want to follow, what advice would you give to kids wanting to follow in your footsteps? What made the difference for you? What helped you, and what encouragement would you give to them?
I just say stick with it, and all sports can be challenging. So if you stick with it, then you'll succeed, and just going through all of the challenges.
Thank you.
Okay. Great, thanks. Okay, and I told Healy that she should feel free to make her exit at any time. Some other things to do tonight. Great. Okay, so I'm going to move on with the superintendent's report. So I have a quick update on the equity audit, which we're still working through the RFP process, and I'm sorry to say that this RFP public procurement process is proving to be a little bit challenging. So frankly, the bids have just come in considerably higher than we expected them to. And so we are working with Michelle Miller, who is working with the outfit that we would like to hire to see if we can hammer out a contract. So we are hoping that that is going to be done next week. Fingers crossed we will be able to bring that into the finish. A couple of hiring updates.
What's the
Yes.
timeline about ballpark then once you sign the contract?
Probably, well, we're now about a month behind, so until next January or February?
Yeah, I mean, our hope was to complete it in the calendar year, but it may tip over a little bit into the new year, maybe
Okay.
if need be. But we are looking to hire an outfit that can get started right away.
Okay, thank you.
And will we get like updates
Yes.
over a period of time, not waiting for the final thing, but we'll get updates of
Yes.
what they're finding?
Yep.
Next.
Okay, and then just a couple of hiring updates. So just as you know, but I want to emphasize that I was happy to announce that Donna Olson has agreed to serve as the interim principal of the Martha Jones School for next year. You know, we are appointing an interim for the year, and then the following year, Mr. Kuklintz, who is currently at Hanlon at the point of our consolidation, is going to be going to Martha Jones. So we're lucky that Ms. Olson is willing to come to Westwood. She's actually from Rhode Island and spent a lot of her career in Rhode Island, was a principal there, but then served as the principal for 7 years in Medfield at the Wheelock School. So she's very familiar with this area. She's currently doing an interim gig in Rhode Island, but is available in September. And I think you will enjoy meeting her. She's lovely. And she has a date, and I'm looking to it's like Donna Tobin and then Donna Olson. So I'm looking to Donna. What do you know the date that Ms. Olson's going to be coming to meet parents?
Monday, May 2nd.
May 2nd.
I believe that's a Monday, whatever that Monday is, May 2nd.
Okay, great. So we're doing sort of a meet and greet so that people can meet.
It all works well with the Donna 2.0.
Yes. Okay, very good. And next, I have an update on our Director of Safety and Security position. So I'm pleased to tell you that we have hired a wonderful candidate. His name is Stephen Trask, and Mr. Trask is the retired Chief of Police in Framingham. The committee was very impressed with Mr. Trask. He has lots of experience, including that he himself was a school resource officer, many years ago. When he then sort of moved up in the ranks in the police department in Framingham, he oversaw the SROs. Later in his career, he was the head of the Emergency Management Committee for the city of Framingham. And has a lot of experience working with the school district there around a lot of their protocols. As I said, he's retired. He does currently also consult with Pamela Perini Consulting, which is an organization that oversees school security projects. So for instance, on our building project, we have a security consultant. That's this kind of group. So I think he's really going to bring a lot of expertise to the job. And I have to say his references, I had the opportunity to speak with someone he worked with on the Emergency Management Committee, with a school superintendent, with the former mayor of Framingham, who we worked very closely with. And I think effusive would describe the way those references went. People said he really was a wonderful person to work with, collaborative, built great relationships, and I think he will understand what it means to think about safety and security in the context of a school, where we need to be secure and accessible, right? And welcoming. So I want to thank Amanda, who was the school committee rep on the interview committee, and as well as Lemma and Abby, who participated. We had we were lucky enough to have Chief Silva from the police department participate in that process, as well as Captain Pierce from the Westwood Fire Department. Mr. Kohut, who's a teacher at the middle school, and also Max Arelis, who's a guidance counselor at the high school. So thank you to all of them because it was a lot of time in that process. So he's going to start next week.
Great.
Excellent.
We're off and running.
So nice work on that one. That was.
Yeah, this is excited to bring him on board. And then just to say that we are working on the middle school dean of students position, so that is in process. We've done sort of a first screening round and are going to be bringing folks back for the next step of the process, and I'm sure there'll be more information about that forthcoming. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Lemma for a few minutes for the Q3 financial report.
Hello. So you have in your packets a copy of the Q3 financial report, and you may have looked at it already. This report takes a look at where we are, what our rate of expenditure is at the end of Q3, as compared to FY20, because I felt that FY21 as a hybrid year was a bit unusual. So those are the 2 years you've got. Just to lead, I'd like to say that the numbers right now look strong, and I believe that we should be able to end the year on budget with no issues. I just want to highlight some of those details. I poured over the areas where we are over and under to determine exactly how we'll be landing the fiscal year. The overall number, though, is that we've got slightly less expenditure than we did in FY20 at this time of year. We also have some external funds available to us that we can deploy if needed and that we can carry into FY23 if needed, if we find that we're able to do so. So that's a helpful area of flexibility, in particular in the grants. In salary accounts, you may remember that we started the year and we were noting that we had significant turnover. We're still seeing that. There's still a lot of movement in our staff. I'm still seeing the estimated salary savings of at least $400,000 in positions that have turned over, but there are other expenses, including long-term and short-term subs, where we've gone over budget. There is a resource we've got now in that we've claimed a lot of reimbursable costs from the state for COVID absences for our staff, and I give a lot of credit to the town partners who worked with us on this, and the HR department and the town treasurer who helped us claim reimbursement for the days that our staff were out. That will help us potentially pay for those sub-expenses, so we see an overage of $100,000, but we might cover some of that with that fund. I want to note, it was interesting for me to see that building use is back. So our school activities are, running and operating, and our buildings are buzzing at night and weekends. And that was a driver of high custodial overtime costs. We are seeing that our overtime is over budget, but it's in a better place than it was in FY20, where it was more significantly over budget. So in FY20, it was almost $100,000 at this point in the year, and this year it's $30,000 over budget. So there's some progress in that front that we'll continue to analyze. In non-salary accounts, we have the most significant bucket in non-salary accounts is contracted services, and the most significant area of contracted services is student services. It's just where most of the budget lies. We have used our student services contract line to fill positions. We've hired contractors to fill positions for which we couldn't secure staff, especially instructional staff that we couldn't not have in place. And so this is an impact of the post-COVID labor market. Sometimes those instructional the contracts for those positions are more expensive than the staff are. And I'd say there's about a $600,000 deficit that's exclusively attributed to that. We've looked at those numbers and combed through it really closely. We think that's the biggest issue. And outside of that, we're pretty close to being on budget, and surprisingly so in that area. So we're doing better than in prior years. In tuitions as well, we are a little bit over budget, but not too significantly, not as much as we were in FY20, where it was a very significant overage. And the difference, the delta is due to student changes or placement changes that have happened there. It was interesting to me to see that supplies, we're just not spending the supply money across the district as rapidly as we have in the past. I don't know what the story is there, and it could be that we're seeing so much turnover in staffing, and our focus has been on staffing rather than on purchasing materials. So maybe the attention went elsewhere this year. the schools may still spend their supply money, so that the deadline isn't there yet, and they still have some time to use those funds if they choose to. Lastly, I just want to say about this year that for me, and I think for our Director of Facilities, it's just been noteworthy that it's been a struggle just procuring the services that we need this year in particular. And so not only in the area of labor and finding the staff for instruction, but also in procuring contracts and finding the materials that we need, we find it difficult to get the work done. And so my worry, rather than landing the fiscal year, is just how are we going to secure all of these contracts and get summer projects underway. So that's what's on the radar for Q4, and that'll be the focus of our work. I also have a couple of notes about FY23 as we gear up for that and start to get ready for the next fiscal year. So I have begun to think about financial risk areas in that area for FY23. And first, I want to start with good news that we and the town are both in a 5-year electric contract, and that's credit to Tom Philbin, our energy manager, that we have locked in those electric prices, so we won't see an escalation there next year. But I do anticipate the obvious, the thing that we've seen everywhere on the front pages, which is fuel price escalation, and that will affect our heating costs, and it will also affect our transportation costs. The other thing that we have been seeing this year and managing is the rising cost of food and paper goods, for example, in particular on our food service program. It has been manageable this year because we have universal free lunch in place and our reimbursement rates are strong, so we're able to make it work. But we anticipate more pressure on that next year, especially if universal free lunch is not in place, and it doesn't appear to be the plan now for September. So I'm flagging that as a potential area of concern. Currently, our middle and high school lunch cost is $3.50. Our reimbursement cost for free lunches this year is $4.61. So that's what we get for the reimbursement now. But our price for families would be otherwise $3.50. And our cost of goods has skyrocketed. So a couple of examples on that. Cost of a dozen bagels this year went from $15.91 to $22.23. The cost of butter went from $94.28 to $105.28. The cost of a pack of chicken fillets, which was interesting, was $101.81, and then went to $171.25. So it's just been quite whiplash for our food service director, who's been bracing for this and also dealing with shortages and difficulty in acquiring the goods. So these are the things that we are thinking about as we enter the next school year, and I just want to flag them for you in case we need further discussion.
So Lema, is it your anticipation that we may, prior to September, have to look at the rates for food service?
I think the
Sounds
gap,
like that.
I do think the gap between the current price of meals for Westwood that we would charge to families and the gap between, and the reimbursable price as newly set by the federal government is significant, and that's telling of the direction we've got to go. Yeah.
And that's the inflation.
And that's driven by inflation, yeah. The reimbursement rate was adjusted directly as a response to the inflation rate. Yeah.
Well, in the past, we've often looked at what other school systems charge for lunch. Is that something that is
Yes.
worth looking at?
We could present some of that data, and I think.
Low or high, or where do we stand?
Yep, we could definitely present some of that data in a presentation to you. And I know other business directors have been discussing the fact that this is a concern for them this spring.
And there's no indication from the USDA that the universal free lunch will continue.
I think there's some discussion that they will try to bring it back, but right now it's not funded, so.
Okay.
In the hope then, as we go to next year, in theory, you'd hope to bring the contracted services down if you could have more full-time. Is that fair? I mean, I know that there's I know there's broader issues in the labor market, but
Yes.
would that be in theory the hope for next year?
Yes, I think part of the trap that we got in this year is that it was a race to fill the positions, and it also is not necessarily a good idea to always have the staff turnover for
Right.
the student experience. So once we had a contractor in place and they were familiar with the students, we retained them
Yeah.
for that classroom, and that we continued to see turnover. So we wound up with with this dynamic.
Lemma, I'm just curious, the 600K that you referred to, though, with student services, that includes the nursing, the COVID nursing staff as well?
It does include some, but not all of the COVID nurses. There are 2 of them, I think, that hit the contract line, and then some that are staff.
Right. So
and
that,
we're
that'll be another,
anticipating
yeah.
That
we-
will go down.
That would go away.
Yeah, that will go away.
Right. Hope-
We believe.
Yes.
Any other questions for them? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lemma.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Lemma.
Lemma.
Excellent as always.
I had a couple of good news things to my superintendent's report. Okay, so just want to say that the middle school musical, The Secret Garden, I believe it is happening as we speak, and also tomorrow night, and a Saturday matinee, and tip, don't miss the beginning, because there's a special cameo, and that might be why Mr. Redmond was just late to this meeting. So I will be in my seat on time to take a look at that. Also just want to say that I know we've gotten questions in the past about doing something for 5th graders, and very happy the elementary principals and Allison have worked to make sure we can have a culminating experience for 5th graders in collaboration with Hale. It's going to involve 5th graders from different schools getting together, doing some team building things this spring in anticipation of going to middle school. So I think that will be great. And also just want to mention 2 things that happened this week that were fantastic. So our 7th graders at Thurston participated in a writers conference, and they went to the high school auditorium where there was a panel of published authors who sort of did a keynote and panel conversation, and then they went back and did workshops, and they were able to workshop with these, professional writers. So thank you to the teachers who made that happen. I think that was a great experience for our kids. And then also on, I think it was Wednesday, all of our 8th graders had a phenomenal opportunity to hear Mr. Aaron Greenfield, who is a 95-year-old survivor of the Holocaust, and I had the privilege of being able to attend that as well. He told his story. It was incredibly powerful, as you would imagine. And you know, what I wanted to say to you, because I know some of you have middle school students, I just want you to know you would have been so proud of the kids, because they were so attentive and respectful, and they just seemed to really understand like what a privilege it was. The kids who got up and asked questions, I mean, they all started with like, good morning, sir. You know, it's an honor that we're able to be here today, right? And then they would ask their questions. So really, incredibly impressive. So I just wanted to pass it along to the Thurston parents that you would have been proud of them. And it was just a really wonderful opportunity. And, sadly, I think an opportunity that, may not, be the case much more into the future. So thank you to Mr. Redmond, and I know some social studies teachers were involved in that, and the PTO as well for making that possible. It's just great.
I know my daughter went, and the whole dinner conversation was about it. And she was very, you could just tell she was moved, and her friends were moved, and it was really, I think it was an amazing event for them.
Yeah.
And I think, as you said, they all seemed to really appreciate what they were hearing. And I love that line that he said, you'll say it better, the one about where someone said to him, this is your story, and he said, well, now I've relayed it to you, and now it's your story.
Yeah, he said, I'm a witness to history,
That's what it is.
and now you are a witness to history.
Yeah.
It was really
So
great.
it was a great
Yeah.
program. So
Yeah.
thanks to Mike and his team for bringing that to life.
Emily,
Yes.
could I have a follow-up on the writers panel?
Sure.
We were delighted at a previous school committee meeting when we were introduced to the 8th grade boy who wrote a award-winning book.
Yes,
Charlie,
yeah, Charlie, yeah.
Goodman.
So we mentioned at the time, is it possible he could do a seminar on
Yeah.
how he did it? For the seniors, the 8th
Good
grader
idea.
might have something to offer, and the others.
Maybe
So,
include him in the writers' conference
Is-
next year. That could be great. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Have we done anything to get him out on a
I don't know if
lectureship?
we have yet, but yeah, we need to get him on the circuit. That's a great idea.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I think that is it for me. Check my notes. Yes, that's it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Any questions on the superintendent's report?
It's not it.
It's not it.
Thank you. I'm so glad Allison's here. I say that many times a day, that is this, I just plugged that in, or we,
Is anything on?
let's see.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, all right, I just thought I'd share some good news. We all need good news. So our senior class is having tremendous success in the college admissions process. And so I got a list of more than 200 colleges and universities that our kids have been admitted to, and it's still going, right? It's only April. And so I just chose 50. Is this 50? I don't know. I chose a bunch of them and put them up there on the screen. And obviously won't read them all, but I think you can see they're going to be going to some really wonderful places. We're very proud of them, very excited for them, because the college admissions landscape right now, as you know, is competitive. And Ruby is not here tonight, but I believe she has good news. Maybe we'll give her some swag next
I think we should.
from her institution, right? And I think it's one that you're particularly happy about.
I am. Can I announce it?
Sure.
So Ruby is going to my alma mater, which is Bowdoin College.
Yeah.
And we are very excited for her. And I think she deserves swag.
She does. All right, so we'll look into acquiring some Bowdoin swag. So there we go. Anyway, so I just wanted to let you know seniors have gotten very exciting news recently, and it's fantastic for them. Okay, and now I am done.
Okay. Anything else on the superintendent's report? All right. We are moving into public comment. Just a reminder, this is an opportunity for the public to speak directly to the school board. Just a couple guidelines. We ask that you come up and state your name and address before your comments, that you limit your comments to 3 minutes, that you address the chair, and I think that's it for the guidelines. So if anybody would like to come up, you can come on up.
Is this on? Oh,
It
yep,
is,
It
yeah.
is. Eileen Siegel, 257 Alder Road. Good evening. I am speaking to you tonight as a show of support and in appreciation of your most recent response to a narrow-minded and fear-driven ad published in the Westwood Hometown Weekly. I read your response and it gave me a feeling of pride in our district leadership. I've been listening as shocking statements have been made at these meetings by fellow residents. I have been filled with disbelief and disgust that people are so comfortable being so hateful and exclusive. My head is spun listening to terms such as anti-racism being the fraternal twin of racism and believing in equality, not equity, and one of my personal favorites, referring to gender identity as sex ed. I'm not even going to get into people throwing around critical race theory. Their lack of understanding is embarrassing to say the least. The lack of education and preferred ignorance of these people is deplorable. I am one of many parents who believe in the DEI work that this district has committed to and practices. I stand with you, I support you, and I will stand in front of you when residents attempting to spread propaganda try to inconvenience you with their lunacy. Superintendent Parks and Assistant Superintendent Borchers, I was baffled at the school committee office hours a couple of weeks ago when I heard a mother of a high school junior complain about a teacher and an assignment that filled me with excitement. Writing an essay from the point of view of a slave is exactly the kind of critical thinking I want my daughter engaging in. Hearing that the teacher was able to pivot and respond to her students when the mother shared that the all-white class was uncomfortable filled me with even more respect for this educator. That is the teacher I want my child to have. I expect my child to be a global learner and critical thinker. I want her to be challenged and pushed out of her comfort zone. What better place for this to happen than at school? I was greatly disappointed when I asked the mother what the teacher's response was, only to have her report that she had not even contacted the teacher. What kind of person has a concern or question about their child's learning and doesn't even communicate with the educator? It blows my mind. I am so glad I was present and have had my eyes opened even more to the people you all are dealing with. On a happier note, I want to thank you for sharing a video link of the book Neither by Ariely Anderson. I watched it with my daughter and have ordered the book to add it to our collection. Knowing that my daughter will be exposed to inclusive literature and that teachers are being so thoughtful about our community's youngest learners brings me great joys. I am extremely excited for the expansion of the MECO program. Knowing that my child will have a more diverse of school community is meeting an expectation I have for her education. please keep pushing forward with all you do. Know you are appreciated, and know that the people who share my opinions and views strongly outnumber the angry and racist few.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to participate?
Pauline Shaloff, 180 Burgess Avenue. There's a lot I could talk about tonight, but first I want to thank and echo Eileen's sentiments. Thank her for speaking out for what many people feel. But thank you to Emily and all the administrators here in the crowd tonight who wrote that very strong and courageous letter to the community yesterday, clarifying and thus defending the hard work and important work that our teachers do. The letter was very well received by the community and very much appreciated. And we're hoping that we can get this letter outside of just the families of students and get it to the greater community, because everyone needs to see what you guys responded, and the clarity will go very far with our with everyone in the community. So I'm not here to discuss those issues. I'm here to really talk about some nitty-gritty with the school committee. As next school committee meeting in May, it's come to my attention that the social studies curriculum review will be brought to you guys to look at. And I'm hoping and asking that you take a look at this before it will be presented in May. And I really think that this is an especially defining moment for Westwood to become a leader in social studies education. It's a time that we need to really be putting our foot on the gas and not on the brake. But in order to become a leader in social studies education, there are a few things that we need to really highlight and focus on within the social studies curriculum. First, there needs to be a consistent K-5 social studies curriculum that emphasizes community, identity, diversity, and inclusion. And again, this needs to be a consistent K-5. And I know it exists in different classrooms, and my son has had some incredible teachers do some incredible things in the realm of social studies, but I think this needs to be consistent amongst all elementary schools and all classrooms. I think there needs to be an expectation that a space is made for diverse voices and perspectives in all core and elective social studies courses. Whether it's economics, whether it's world history, there needs to be an expectation that this space has to be there. It has to be a mandate. I'm sorry, I know people don't like top-down, but the space needs to be made for diverse voices and perspectives. Anti-racism has to be an omnipresent aspect of our K-12 social studies curriculum and pedagogy. It has to be there. And finally, the curriculum review must highlight a scope and sequence of all courses that is equitable, inclusive, and where there is consistent visibility of historically marginalized communities. Our kids need to be learning the skills to become global citizens. This should be the primary focus of the K-12 curriculum. The social studies classroom needs to be the focus of needs to focus on teaching our kids about the diversity in which the world is that we live in.
Pauline, thank you. You're at your 3
mine's
minutes.
so much shorter than Eileen's.
Sorry.
So slow. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to comment?
Christina Martin, 23 Brookfield Road. As I've said to you guys, I think you've done an amazing job in an impossible situation. Thank you for your hard work. I'm concerned about our teachers and administrators and just the exhaustion and fatigue that, even though they're not showing it to me, I'm not seeing it as a parent, but I just don't know how it can't be there. And also, I heard the discussion of some turnover and whatnot. So I just want to be sure that the district knows that there are parents who really strongly support doing what we need to do to keep our teachers healthy and to give them the resources they need. And to try and take, if there's things that can be taken off their plate so that they're able to actually, recharge and focus all their energy on their teaching, then we want to do that. But I know you guys have done really, really hard work, and you've had just one thing after another, and the teachers have too, and they've done such an incredible job and been such a stabilizing factor, at least in my household, and they've been great for my kids, and it just having these great teachers really benefits my children's mental health. So I want our teachers to be able to take care of their mental health and their physical health and other needs too. So I just want you to know that we appreciate you, and we, at least myself, my family, supports whatever we can do or need to do to support our teachers too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christina.
Anyone else? Okay, I will close public participation, and we are moving on to the school committee chair update.
You might want to mention the office hour thing.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. And the liaison report. So first on my list, as Charlie reminded me, our next school committee office hours are going to be May 18th at 7 p.m. This is an evening session. Our last one was a morning session. And I think we might need to change the name, because I think to clarify what they are, it's really more of a roundtable discussion where people are welcome to come in and come out and join a group discussion. And it's a great opportunity for people not only to to tell us what they're thinking and have any questions answered, but to hear from other members of their community. A lot of times we're getting the same questions from different people. So we structured these as more of a roundtable discussion so that people can really hear each other, and also have a forum to ask questions, and we try and give real-time feedback and answers as best we can. If we can't in the moment, we take it away, and we respond later. So I think with office hours, people are thinking coming in with the expectation it's a one-on-one. It's really a roundtable discussion. So I think we might change the name to School Committee Roundtable or whatever other name we come up with, but that's the concept, that's the format. And the next one will be May 18th at 7 p.m. I do appreciate that, and I hope that everyone knows that there are people who come to these things with differences of opinions, and it's really important to listen to everyone and really respect everyone's opinions. We've had great success with that, I think, at these forums. I would love for that to continue. So we will continue holding these for as long as the public wants them. And for those who have attended them, if you have any feedback for us on what you think went well and what you think could be improved, shoot me an email. I'd love to hear from you about that. This is an iterative process. We are trying to make this as comfortable and as productive as we can for the community. So any feedback, just send me an email and we will adjust accordingly. So May 18th, 7 p.m., mark your calendars. School building project update. So we hit some news. Our 90% estimate came in about $2.3 million over budget, given all of the fluctuation in the markets. We had built in an $800,000 buffer already, so we needed to find an additional $1.5 million in savings. And so at our last meeting, at the last school building committee meeting, we had a lot of discussion about where we could find that savings, and we did end up finding that plus some, because we want to have yet another buffer for when we go to bid day. We are going to bid, I think, in June. We are keeping our fingers crossed that the 90% estimate is going to hold for the next 2 months. Just to give you an example, between the 60% estimate and the 90% estimate, which was a period of about 2 months, our energy costs went up over $1 million. So we're seeing exactly what Lemma's talking about in the building project, these crazy inflation, crazy market conditions. So we might have more work to do, but I think we got to a good place with where we are. If you're interested, the video is available to see where we had to make some hard decisions. But we're still going to have a great building. So we are moving forward.
I'd just like to thank the people, first of all, Emily and administrative staff. We meet at 8 o'clock in the morning, like every 2 weeks. This whole school committee is on this committee, and then the town select board members, the town manager. It's an incredible commitment of the town to go through details that you can't believe. And so, and we're led by a great leader here, Lemma, somehow. Mayor finds the time to put into all of this, so, but I want to thank all the people involved in it. It's been
Yeah.
an
Thank you,
incredible
Charlie.
process.
No, it's a great committee. It's a big committee, lots of people in town participating, which is wonderful, but I appreciate that. School Start Times Subcommittee. Tony.
Okay, I'm gonna, I guess a
Go.
couple things. Oh, sorry, Lee. A couple things. For anyone that didn't get a chance to see Dr. Owen's presentation, I'd encourage you to watch it. After that hour, if you aren't compelled that we need to change the start times, I don't know what else would compel you. She did a very thorough analysis of the history and research. I encourage it. So before I actually share this, and Lemma can help prepare this. So is just caveats. This is very, very, very high level. Before you start texting and emailing all of us, this is like done on a cocktail napkin, okay? So
Pretend.
yes,
This
yes.
isn't happening.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And so these times aren't exact, but the key thing we wanted to just start to introduce to the community is what are some of the high-level potential options. Again, don't look at the exact times, and we have a lot of work to do. We're going to have another forum probably in May where we're going to get together and get community input more on these options as opposed to the research. But so that's just the caveat. But we wanted to introduce them to the committee just to kind of do that. So just the current schedule, as you know, Westwood High School starts at 7:25, which is actually the earliest time among our 12 athletic leagues. So that was interesting data we did. Thurston starts around 7:48, and then the elementary schools start at 8:50, and then the corresponding league. All right, so option one is what some districts have done is a flip, right? So the way to look at this, scenario A would be basically, you kind of flip, the elementary with the high school, right? So the high school would be the last, the elementary would be the earliest, right? That's kind of the basic idea. Now, on each of these scenarios, right, we have a scenario, but then we have what I call the double-decker. The double-decker being basically, as opposed to doing 3 bus runs, right now we do 3 bus runs, we do elementary, middle school, and high school. There may be the potential, given the location of the middle high school, could you actually do those bus run as 2 run, those together? Again, we haven't now, they may require more buses, it may not be feasible cost. All these need a lot of analysis, but that's basically the idea of scenario A2. You would actually do, the elementary would still start earlier, and then you would do kind of a combined bus run for Thurston and high school, and so they would be only a few minutes apart. Again, that's just the highest. Then the next one, scenario B is a little bit different. I think we're calling this the high school slide in, right? So basically here we slide in, what you do here is you keep Thurston about the same time, but you actually could maybe slide in the high school, after Thurston but before the elementary. So in some ways this would probably be the least disruptive, the least change, particularly for the elementary and for Thurston, but while giving potentially the high school students an extra 50 minutes of sleep. Again, these are preliminary numbers. So the idea there being, you would kind of keep the elementary the last, but you would kind of slide in the high school second. Kind of a similar situation on B2, it's the double-decker. So you would do kind of a Thurston and Westwood High School combined, and then you would do the elementary kind of again last. And so that's kind of the option B. And then C is actually somewhat similar to A. It's a flip. It's a flip, but there you actually flip the high school. You put the high school in the middle and Thurston at the end, right? So it's the same concept as A, but it's just you're swapping the high school and Thurston. So that's kind of the broad options, right? So kind of either you do a flip, or you might slide in the high school in between the elementary and the Thurston, and then there's the option potentially, depending on bus utilization and cost, of actually doing 2 bus runs as opposed to 3. So that's very high level. I thought it was important to share because I think we're starting to get a lot of questions about everyone saying, everyone's assuming a flip or assuming maybe something more on the slide in. I just wanted to start sharing that with the community so people can kind of get some sense of our thoughts at a very high level. Questions, comments, other comments?
I would just say, again, this is like back of the envelope because it has to do with the length of bus runs, which is impacted by traffic patterns at different times of day. The elementary bus runs are small because geographically, middle school, high school has to cross town, right? So a lot of complicated variables here, so we're not sort of settling on anything. But it's good to start just thinking about, thinking creatively about some options. And then I wanted to mention that tomorrow we will be sending out some surveys to the community. So there's a parent survey, a student survey, and a staff survey that's going out. We have a bunch of questions. We're curious for people to give us some input about what the impact would be if we change the start time so that we can consider that in our planning process. And again, just to remind the community, we are talking about potentially making a change for the start of the 2023-2024 school year. So not for this fall, but for next fall. So that's where we are.
I just want to thank you and the committee for the amount of time you put into this. I know you've done, looking at other systems and what have people found from it. The last question I heard was, at the high school level, has there been any issues with the high school kids who get more sleep in college? So the colleges aren't sensitive to this, I don't think yet. Maybe they are, but I've just heard that some of them have classes at 7:30 and all of this. And could it be an issue? Has it been an issue? But that's the only issues I've heard. But a tremendous amount of time and thought I know has been put into this anyway.
Thank you.
I think what also, and I know you have this data or you're collecting it, but just to see what the other schools have done, where they've been successful, where they haven't, what challenges they've had. And I know you're looking at that, but I'm very curious about that. I'd love to hear about it. This is the Charlie question, right? I'd love to hear what other schools are doing. And I think in this it would be critical.
No, agree.
Okay, anything else? Okay.
That's great, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other liaison reports? Okay, well, we're going to hear now, moving into discussion items, we are hearing from another subcommittee, the Policy Review Subcommittee, and we're getting an update on that.
Yes, thank you. So myself, Charlie, Emily, Allison, Abby, and John had the opportunity to kick off the Policy Review Subcommittee a few weeks ago. We met with Jim Hardy from MASC. And basically what we're doing is reviewing all of the policies. He's taking a look at them first and coming back to us with recommendations. And what he's looking at is best practices and making sure that we're in compliance, so necessary changes that we have to make. And then as a subcommittee, we're discussing them, and then we'll be bringing them to the school committee for approval. So the idea is we can review section A this week or this meeting, and then next month vote to approve it. And then once we've completed all of the sections, we'll vote to adopt the policy. So we're taking it a chunk at a time. So if you look at section A, basically anything that's in black is what exists right now, what our current policy is, and what's in blue is the recommendations that Jim has made, and some of it he's just swapping out. Like, for example, the Title IX policy, brings us where we need to be from the legislative perspective, so we can just swap that right out. And then the red edits are deletions. So ideally, everybody will have a chance to review this, and then in May, we can vote to approve it. And we'll keep doing that. I think we have at least 10 sections to go through. 12, okay. So it's going to be a long process, but we can kind of chip away at it at each month.
Okay, great. So for May, we will vote on whether or not to accept these changes.
Exactly.
Okay.
So his recommendation, as I understand it, is that each month you would vote to sort of approve the recommendation of the subcommittee for that section, but it isn't actually adopted when you're done with the whole thing,
Yeah.
right? That's what he said. When you're done with the whole thing, then you vote to adopt the manual.
Okay.
So there is sort of a strange
Right.
limbo period, which I would love to talk more with him about.
As to what we're doing.
Yeah, because this, will take some time, obviously.
So there's 12 sections and we're doing one a month?
But he said there were,
compact a
we can compact a couple. I think there are some sections that are shorter than others, and so I think twice he said we could compact them, so probably 10 months.
That's where I got the 10 from.
Okay.
Right.
And also, this gentleman is with the Mass Association of School Committees. And,
Yes.
I don't know how he does it, but, you know, the 70 pages we just did, he knows every detail of everything that's in ours, it is unbelievable. If we didn't have him, I don't know
He
how
made,
you
he
would possibly
did
do
make it
this.
very easy,
But it
looking at,
was,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
he's a very valuable person to have, who knows the details of every policy and every change that's been made over the years and where they came from, and so it's, I think we're very lucky to have him.
I did want to note too that we're missing, there's one policy
Oh,
that we
yes,
pulled from section
Yeah.
A, and that's the wellness policy. And what we realized was that, so MASC has like a model policy, that's sort of best practice. And our wellness policy was very, very long and didn't feel like a policy. It felt more like a
Practical guide.
practical guide to wellness. And so we pulled that, and we actually are going to have the Wellness Review Committee take a look at it, and they'll get back to us with.
Right, I spoke with Tim Chant already about it and just said, I think what we want to do is if there are elements that are in that kind of policy that have particular meaning or importance to the committee, we would want to, we do have the ability to kind of pull in things that are unique to Westwood. So we don't want to lose all of the local kind of flavor of the thing, but we don't particularly want to try and wrangle our way through a policy that's like 13 pages long, and all the implications that go with that on a regular basis.
Is it possible to get this in Word? Or is it track changes?
Yeah.
Okay.
And how do you want to get comment? I guess that's I don't really care about word edits, but if you want comment, I guess just more what's the process do you see for comment? I have one overall arching comment, but do you want it during the meetings or before the meetings or?
I think during the meeting, so we can all hear them and discuss them, makes the most sense. So, if there's not redundancies.
Yeah, my only
right?
comment, and then maybe it's later in there, is on the people and their school district. Is there anywhere, it's on the page 4, is there anywhere in the first section where it actually specifically states what the role of the school committee is by statute, by chapter 71, 71, section 37? I just thought that might be a good add. Maybe ask Jim if we should actually just state the statutory, what the school committee role is.
Yeah.
It may fit in that section.
I thought he had that.
Maybe,
I thought so too.
Maybe it is. I'm like trying to, maybe it is. So if it's somewhere else, that's fine. I just didn't see it in that part.
He does have legal references on the first page. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, well, I guess I'm just seeing the people in their school district. There's a bunch of stuff here that isn't actually what the statute is.
Right, we just had what we
Okay,
had
okay.
historically claimed the school
Yeah.
committee's role to be as a district. But you're right, there was nothing in
Yeah,
terms
I mean,
of
you
the
could just do
statute.
a copy and paste.
Right, we could ask him to
Yeah.
add that. Are there-
So, sorry, just to clarify the process. So if we're voting on it next month, but what if we have changes? Like, what if we have comments and we're sort of saying,
So my understanding, Emily, correct me if I'm wrong, is we would discuss it this month and vote on it next month.
Because I think the idea of the subcommittee is that the subcommittee is going to bring a
It's already
recommendation,
fine.
right? Like we sort of vetted it. So I think, but we're meeting once a month. So the idea is that we put it under discussion tonight because we're discussing the process for the first time.
Right.
But the idea is that in the future, going forward, that the newest section will be in the liaison report, right? So Amanda, as the subcommittee chair, will say, okay, here's what we did this time, right? And we can take any comments and then talk about them in our subcommittee meeting. And then when we come back the following month, it's like, this is our recommendation. Does that make sense? This is what we'll do. And you would vote on it.
okay.
But, I mean, we're open to if there's a better method for it in terms of the process that you guys can think of.
I mean, the only other thing, I like particular edits, if it's just updating things, I think if there's anything new, actually, I don't know if they're going to go through this process and say, we have a gap. I guess if you could just flag
Yeah.
if there's a new policy, I don't mean just an update to
Yeah.
be compliant, but if there's something that's really new.
That's important. So you know what, and let me say that was an important part of the process
Yeah,
with Jim.
okay.
So that's part of what he does,
Yeah.
right? He comes in and he says to us, okay, like I've looked, and here's where your policies are in alignment with the model policy, right? Or here's where your policy is quite different, or if you have something that isn't in their model policy book, or something that's missing. So he sort of flagged all of those things for us. And so what you're seeing here sort of reflects that. But I hear what you're saying. So if we could maybe do like a cover sheet where we somehow indicate, a list of that. Yeah.
That's a good idea. That would be helpful.
Okay, yeah. I mean, in this case, the only one that I can think of is that we had, now I'm gonna get the detail wrong, but there was something where we had a policy, like an additional one, and I think it has to do with the changes that were happening in Title IX, right? It was a bridge policy, exactly, like the law was, there were some weird things happening at the federal level, the law was kind of in flux, and so the committee put like a bridge policy in place, and it's not necessary anymore. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know why I'm so confused. So, at the next meeting,
Yeah.
you will bring this policy back with a recommendation based on any comments we may have tonight or that we provide you between
Yes.
now and then.
And we're gonna have
And you're gonna
another
have another
section.
policy.
Yeah.
Right, for us to discuss.
Right.
All right, now I get it. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I think actually, I know this is confusing. We put it under discussion tonight just because we had to talk about the process. So next month, we'll have section B under the liaison update. And then we would have section A potentially.
action items.
Action item,
Got it.
exactly.
Okay, now I'm on board.
Okay.
All right, anything else on the policy subcommittee update? Okay. All right, moving into action items. So first is the confirmation of appointments and conversions to the membership of the school building committee. I sent you guys a memo regarding this, so I'm just gonna run through it. It's a little complicated. There's a lot going on this month. So first, Tony is stepping off of the SBC, so we need to inform the MSBA of that. And on behalf of the SBC, I would like to thank you for your contributions to the project. You have been invaluable, Tony, so thank you. So we will make a note of that for the MSBA. There's no vote required for that.
You're thankful I'm leaving.
No, I really, we needed you.
More time for math review. Right?
Exactly. So secondly, the select board has requested that Rob Gotti, select board member, replace Mike Walsh as the select board representative. So first, on behalf of the SBC, I would like to thank Mike for his contributions to the building project, also a valuable member of the team. And we will need a vote of the school committee to confirm Mr. Gotti's appointment to the membership to the SBC, of the SBC. Finally, this is where it gets complicated. So pursuant to the town charter, the Permanent Building Commission, or the PBC, is charged with constructing and reconstructing all municipal buildings. So we have been able to design and get as far as we have with just the SBC. Of course, we've had the PBC input via John Cummings, who has been on our, who is on the SBC. But now the PBC needs to step in as we move into construction. So we've consulted with town council, we've consulted with the PBC, and the way we are doing this is we are appointing the PBC members who are not already on the SBC, we are appointing them to the SBC as voting members. And anyone who is on the SBC who is not on the PBC is going to become an ex officio non-voting member. That complies with both the town charter, which says the PBC must be in charge of this process, and the MSBA, which says the SBC must be in charge of this process. So we will actually have dual meetings of the PBC and the SBC going on at the same time. Everyone understand?
It's a lot of
It's
acronyms.
a lot of discussions about this. So we need a few votes to make this happen. So first of all, as I mentioned, John Cummings, who is a permanent member of the PBC, is already on the SBC, is already a voting member, so no action needs to be taken with respect to John. Same with Ken Aries and same with me. Ken is a permanent member of the PBC. I am a temporary member of the PBC for purposes of this project. So nothing needs to be done with respect to our membership. So members of the PBC who are also on the SBC, but whose status on the SBC has to be converted to non-voting, are Brian Baer, who is an ex officio member of the PBC, and Emily, who is an ex officio member of the PBC. So that vote needs to take place. Members of the PBC who needs to be appointed to the SBC with voting privileges are Lyle Coughlin, who is, these are all permanent members of the PBC. Lyle Coughlin, Tom Erickson, Nancy Hyde, and William Scoble. A member of the PBC who should be appointed to the SBC with non-voting privileges is Mike Powers, who's also ex officio of the PBC. And finally, the following members of the SBC who are remaining on the SBC, but whose status needs to be converted to non-voting members are Josh Baumer, Allison Borchers, Tom Carey, Chris Coleman, Charlie Donahue, Pam Dukeman, Mary Kate Ferreira, Jen Flanders, Abby Hanscom, Lemma Jean-Baptiste, Josepha Jowdy, Matt Kuklins, Carol Lewis, Michelle Miller, and Amanda Phillips. So, I need a motion.
Good luck.
So moved.
Who's got it?
All right, I have a motion to do all the things I just talked about. Can I do that, John?
No.
Do I have to do
Should
them?
they be separate motions, I'm thinking?
Yeah, doing
I guess so.
separately. We're in person.
You want me
so
to,
it'll
I'll
be
read the
fast.
motion?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I get a motion to replace Rob Gotti with Mike Walsh as the select board representative to this SBC?
It's the opposite, I think.
So you're gonna,
Replace
To
Mike.
replace Mike Walsh with Rob Gotti
What she said.
as the select board representative.
Yes.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, motion's carried. Okay, I now need a motion to, okay, with respect to members of the PBC who are also, okay, so I need a motion for the following SBC members to convert their status from voting to non-voting for Brian Baer and Emily Parks.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carried. I need a motion to appoint the following members, the following individuals to the SBC with voting privileges. Lyle Coughlin, Tom Erickson, Nancy Hyde, and William Scoble.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carried. Now I need a motion to appoint Mike Powers to the SBC with non-voting privileges.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion's carried. Finally, I need the following members of the SBC. I need a motion to change their status from voting to non-voting. Josh Baumer, Allison Borchers, Tom Carey, Chris Coleman, Charlie Donahue, Pam Dukeman, Mary Kate Ferreira, Jen Flanders, Abby Hanscom, Lemma Jean-Baptiste, Josepha Jowdy, Matt Kuklins, Carol Lewis, Michelle Miller, Amanda Phillips, and Rob Gotti, since we just appointed him. Can I get a
So
motion?
moved.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any, you're in favor? Motion is carried. Whew, all right. All that's done. Moving on. We now get to accept couple of scholarships. This is exciting. Do you want to?
Yeah. So the high school has 2 new community scholarships, which are funded by Gretchen Wick, who is the daughter of the former principal of Westwood High School, Charlie Flahive, who Flahive Field is named after, former colleague of mine. The first is the Gloria C. Flahive RN Memorial Scholarship, which will be awarded to a student enrolled in a dedicated nursing program. The annual award will be between $500 and $1,000 with a one-time award of $1,000. And I knew Mrs. Flahive also. She was Mr. Flahive's wife. She was a wonderful woman, and so it would be wonderful to get a scholarship named in her honor. The other scholarship is the Marion E. Healy Scholarship, which will be awarded to a student pursuing a career in education. This is a one-time award for $1,000, and I believe that Mrs. Healy was a valued colleague of Mr. Flahive's when they were both teachers at Westwood High School.
Oh,
Yeah, so this is very nice. And so a vote of the school committee is required to accept these scholarships for our students.
Okay, can I get a motion to accept these scholarships?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion is carried. Next,
You send like a thank you note out to,
Yes, we will.
and actually, Mr. Flahive was the vice principal when I went to high school, so that's nice. Now I need a motion to accept the School Start Times Subcommittee meeting minutes of March 2nd, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor? Motion is carried. And finally, I need approval of our March 10th, 2022 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Okay, moving into new business. I have something. So tonight is our friend Carol's last meeting with us. As many of you know, Carol has elected not to run for re-election. So I just wanted to take a minute to say a few words about Carol. So Carol has been an unstoppable force on the school committee during her 12-year term. She joined back in 2010, right, 2010, when her two boys were still young, and continued to serve as they went through the entire Westwood school system. Throughout her tenure, she has provided a pragmatic yet empathetic viewpoint, balancing fiscally responsible decisions with a commitment to continued academic excellence. I will say, though, her most notable achievement to date has to be her exemplary leadership as chair of this school committee during the 2020 to 2021 school year. So when Carol took over the chairmanship in May 2020, we as a district and as a community had no idea how the COVID-19 pandemic would affect us. And during this period of unprecedented difficulty, the school committee had to deal with a stream of new and conflicting regulations, or no regulations, which was more likely, continuous changes to protocols, and then changes to the changes in the protocols, and just general discontent and confusion within all kinds of communities, including ours. So Carol, throughout this entire period, worked tirelessly with the administration, faculty, and staff to ensure that our students were able to return to school in some fashion in as safe a manner as possible, and to continue providing the education that this town has come to value. While any one of these challenges created by the pandemic would have shaken most people to the core, Carol kept hold of the rudder and enabled Westwood to manage the pandemic better than many, if not most, of the districts in this state. And I will say that out loud. She's been a tremendous asset to each of us, her fellow school committee members, and to the Westwood community as a whole. We thank her deeply and effusively for I'm going to say this to you now. We thank you deeply and effusively for your commitment to Westwood students and for your contributions to our town. And we wish you the best as you leave us all alone without you. So we will properly fet you at a later date, but we could not let tonight go without thanking you publicly for everything you have done for us. So thank you, Carol.
So it's going to be hard. So I'm going to dedicate this last meeting to my mom, my son, who passed away yesterday. And it's hard, but I wanted to come because that unstoppability comes from her, and her love of children comes from her, and her respect and the importance of education comes from her, and my craziness and energy comes from her. So I wanted to be here for the last meeting because I know she would have said to me, "You got to go to your last meeting." So I'm here, but I thank you for that, and these have been tremendous years. We have accomplished so much, and I know there are a lot of naysayers out there, and there's a lot of difficulty right now, but keep charging ahead. The administration, all of you are amazing, and it's been great to work with you, and you give me a lot of credit, but really, it's all of you, and we as a school committee, I think I can speak for all of us, obviously, we could not do this without you. You all are the experts. But it was a lot of fun, and I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss all of you, and I'm probably going to come knock on your door, John, because I miss you a lot. But thank you, and it was a great opportunity, and I wouldn't change anything except maybe that.
Maybe that 1 year.
Yeah. But calm and carry on, okay?
Thank you,
All right.
Carol.
Okay, does anyone have any new business? No? All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.